Right, this prop video is going to be about this vintage camera case here. Now, this has been a back burner project since about 2007. I found it in the skip. It was chucked out along with the camera flash rods that I did a video from a few days ago. So, this case, what is it? Now, it is a vintage camera case. It has been repurposed for something because, of course, we've got all these little leather straps running through here, so it's very likely holding something on the inside. These straps here don't seem to match, so I'm guessing that it was done later in its life. And we do have a cross here which pulls out rather easily, maybe in emergency. Now obviously I made this prop and it's been a back burner for a long time, I've already said that. So it was a case of actually getting round to actually putting it together. So here we go. What is it? Whoever put these straps on, me, but in the universe I built this, whoever put these straps on literally just did it for functionality, not for look. I wonder if anyone's guessed what it is yet. So here we go. So the camera case dates from roughly the 1920s, 1930s. So as it's been repurposed, in my head I built this as a Victorian item. And of course the problem is now, if this case is from the 1920s, there's a lot of Victorian stuff in here. It doesn't really marry up time-wise, but if we view this like a film prop, as this is a prop, then getting a case from the 1920s, turning it into what I have turned it into, would be something that many prop companies and films would do. And then later, we as fans would find out what this case actually was and go, it shouldn't have been there. So anyway, here we go. This is what it is. Oh, there we go. Last catch. It is my vampire hunting kit, which ever since I found this case, and I saw all the green velvet on the inside, I looked at it and thought, that just looks like a vampire hunting kit. Obviously, none of this was in here. So we've got all these straps had to be added later. So all these straps have all been added later. So it's a repurposed case. So the whole idea was to look like a repurposed case from the Victorian era. But now we know it's from the 20s. Yeah, we'll skate over that. So we go. We've got a nice wooden cross here, which I stained to look darker. That came from Cyprus, I think. I think that was only a couple of our English pounds in a sense. We've got a vintage bottle here of garlic. We all know what that does to vampires. We've got a nice vintage bottle here of holy water, tap water. And the whole aesthetic of this is, when I was putting it together, I was thinking, obviously, if you want to kill a vampire, this is all rather ornate and time-consuming to open and undo and all this business. And then I thought about, take away the Hollywood of vampire hunting. The whole idea was that it was quite a relaxed practice, wasn't it? The whole idea that if it all went well, is you were supposed to find the vampire in its coffin and extinguish it that way. There was no running around and all this business. So let's have a look at the main inside anyway. So rather ominously here, we have a genuine Victorian map of London. So I like that because it looks like one of the last jobs it did was London. We've got a modern cross here, which once again I just kind of painted to look a little bit older than it actually is. So here's our map book of London from the Victorian era. And what's nice about that is it talks about the omnibuses you can get. Now it's amazing to think that, you know, obviously the word omnibus got shortened to the word bus. So it's quite a massive map. I can't really show you any of it one-handed, but yeah, so there we go. There's just a little bit of information there. Oh, Blackheath. That's very good to see. That's kind of very local. So that's that. Then, of course, we've got in here, we've got our hammer. Nice vintage hammer that I got off eBay. Cut it down to make it fit in the box. We've got our stakes, which are genuinely sharp. I thought, well, I can't really have stakes in there that aren't sharp. It's going to feel a bit crap. These actually are wood from the 1940s. This was in the house. It was holding up some shelves. I always stockpile everything. I always keep everything as well, because you never know. Not in case of vampires, but you never know in case of building props. And yes, once dyed, they seem to go and marry up very well. We've got our old vintage pliers here for pulling out vampires' teeth. So once again, it's the same old practice that you're hoping everything's going to go well. The vampire's in its deep slumber, so it's not really going to wake up and cause any kind of Hollywood chasing. We have a mirror in here. Nice ornate mirror. The funny thing is, if you turn that over, it's actually a magnifying mirror. So that's the reason I've got it in that way. A, it looks better, but B, it's absolutely useless to try and see a vampire's reflection because you can't even see your own reflection in there. You can see yourself up close, but you can't see anything over your shoulder, so rather pointless really. We have our little bottles in here. So we've got, now this is hilarious, this is salt. Now the hilarious thing about salt, when I was looking into, what could go in a vampire hunting kit, if a vampire is chasing you, now they definitely wouldn't use this in Hollywood, but if a vampire is chasing you, throw this salt on the floor. The vampire is compelled to sit and count every grain of salt. So I just think that's ridiculous, but it's brilliant. So there we go. That's why you need to carry salt. We've got some Fuller's Earth, which just looks like ash or whatever. Sometimes you don't need to know everything that goes in there. Just make sure it kind of has an interesting look to it. Rose petals of every kind of rose, now from a potpourri, but there you go, rose petals. The great thing about rose petals, if you're fighting a vampire, the thorns of a rose can keep a vampire in his grave. It's all very technical stuff, this. The rose petals can damage a vampire. And there was one more thing about roses. The scent. The scent of roses can keep them at bay. So maybe get an old atomizer and spray the whole box, give myself a bit of extra protection. Let's just pop those back before I go on to the other little glasses. So here we've got our chloroform here. Chloroform? No, it's actually just tea. But apparently chloroform, as I've recently found out, is a bit of a knockout drug to vampires. Quite difficult to find out, that one. The route I was going down kept leading me to a website that seemed to be every time a vampire novel mentioned chloroform. And you couldn't zoom in. It just showed you the pages. So it wasn't that easy to find out why chloroform is effective. What have we got here? We've got some more garlic, because you never know, you can't have too much garlic when you're fighting vampires. Now obviously, because the extinguishing of vampires is supposed to be a laid-back subject, we have our little pocket book Bible, which I think is from 1888 thereabouts. Hopefully the person using this has got a better eyesight than I have now, because the text is absolutely tiny. There we go. That's that. Now, one of the things I've had for years when building this, and I just thought this had to go in there. This is from an old Victorian encyclopedia, and here we have an illustration of bats, and we have in there, I think it's the bottom one, is the vampire bat. So just in case you need to know what a vampire bat looks like, if you're a hunter, there we go. There's your spotter's guide to a vampire bat. Now, once you've successfully extinguished your vampire, of course you want people to believe you, don't you? Surely you've almost committed murder, possibly, and someone's gone missing. You might need to be accountable for that. So, of course, we have in here our little evidence. We have our vampire remains. There we go. Our little vampire remains here. So there we are in a little wax sealed box. Some nice red ash there, all that remains of the vampire. Now you can chemically test that, and it definitely is a vampire. I can vouch for that myself. So yes, as I famously say, that is it on the vampire hunting kit, really. It's been something I've wanted to do for years, mainly as a curiosity, because a lot of Victorians used to buy these. They used to be made in the Victorian era as a curiosity. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There was, I think, one last thing that was quite funny. There was, I think it was an episode of one of those American programs like Bargain Hunters, but their equivalent, where they opened up a vampire kit and they got really excited and said that, you know, this is a genuine article because this isn't made like a prop. And it just made me laugh, because obviously, you know, if you buy all the right components from the right year, put it in the right year case, you can make a very convincing prop. A prop doesn't have to look like a prop, you know. Well, these guys were trying to pass this off as a genuine vampire kit and get really excited. But, you know, this was sold as Curiosities in the Victorian times. So I'd say there's probably a few genuine vampire hunting kits out there, but maybe we wouldn't really want to know the backstory to those. Anyway, there we go. That's the vampire hunting kit. Actually, a 1920s video camera case. Oh well, let's not dwell on that too much. Take care.